Hello and welcome to another edition of Sports Talk Philadelphia. I'm your host, Tommy McIntyre Jr. Well, the Philadelphia Flyers made some deals at the trade deadline, and we're going to be talking all that as well as the Philadelphia 76ers. Unfortunately, injuries are the story for them. Ben Simmons and Embiid out for the rest of the year. Then we're going to talk some Phillies. Spring training is around the corner, or it already is playing right now, and the season's coming up, so we'll be talking all that and more coming up.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
Hello and welcome back. Well, we got a great show for you today. We actually have 3 guests on, which is one more than normal we usually have. To my left, co-producer of SportsTalk Philadelphia, Kevin Cook. Thank you so much for coming on. He'll be on for pretty much all the sports. Steve Graham coming on to talk some Sixers as well as the Philadelphia Flyers. And all the way to the end, Dana Pecora, thanks for coming on to talk some Flyers. All right, so let's get into it. Let's get into the Philadelphia Flyers. What did they do this past trade deadline? Well, they made a deal with the Tampa Bay Lightning, and it gave us a guy by the name of Fipula. It's going to be tough to say. We're going to all have problems saying it this show. But as you see, we traded Mark Streit to the Lightning, who eventually actually traded him to the Pittsburgh Penguins. But yeah, let's get into it, Kevin. Just talk a little bit about this trade and what you think a guy, a veteran center, can bring to this team. Maybe this season, it's going to be hard to probably get in the playoffs, but next year as well. What can he kind of bring to this team as maybe a second-line center?
I really don't understand this trade that Hextall made here. I mean, I know we get the 2 picks to come in. Right now, we know that this team isn't really playing all that well, and going forward, I don't really know what their move is. I think maybe moving the veteran like Streit might have been a move to maybe light a fire under this team. I think Streit was a light guy in the locker room, and maybe that was the ploy of it all. But to bring in a guy like Filippola, I think that's how you say his name. Yeah, I don't know how to say it. But the move to bring him in, I think, is maybe to spark an offensive surge on this team. But his contract is worth $5 million, which is basically the same thing as Streit's was. But he's signed for a longer period of time, so I'm not really a fan of this trade. Really?
That's surprising. I actually think he's a guy that can really bring some presence here. Let's go to Steve. He was talking about the contract, but actually if he was on the free agent market, his contract would have went up even more right now. So it seems like this is a deal where they're going to have a guy that can help them out, and even the Lightning weren't really wanting to get rid of him. It kind of just was a situation that they had to deal him. So talk a little bit about that, Steve, and how you feel about this trade.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Kevin. I couldn't disagree with you more. I love this trade. He's making $25,000 less in his contract than 39-year-old Mark Streit. So it's a $5 million contract. He won't be up for the NHL expansion draft, because of the Las Vegas team, of course. So they get to keep him, and it's a veteran experience. He's 33 years old. He's going to be on the line with Braden Shen and Jacob Voracek, and his numbers have gone consistently down from 2013 but sometimes you can blame the team. You put him on the line with Voracek and Braden Shen. I mean, it's 2 of the Flyers' playmakers.
Can you blame the Lightning? I mean, weren't they were just in the conference finals last year? Or?
Right, and that's what I'm saying. But after the conference finals, they traded away most of their talent, so he wasn't working with much. But to have a veteran that takes some of the pressure off Claude Giroux, certainly at the center position on the second line, I think it gives the Flyers some depth, especially coming down where every game is now a must-win to make the playoffs. So he gives them a better chance than Mark Streit, I believe.
Yeah, and Dana, let's go to you. Dealing with this trade, I mean, obviously we were questioning what a move like Hextall would probably do. Do you think this is something to spark the team this season, or do you think this will also help us out maybe next year as well? What do you kind of think of this trade?
Well, exactly. We've been talking for weeks now, like what's going to be that move that's going to spark this offense, you know, because they were in such a slump. And I think that if any move was going to give us maybe a better run for the playoffs, it would be this one, you know, kind of changing things up a little bit. But even if it doesn't help us for the playoffs this year, it'll definitely, hopefully, you can only hope that it'll help for next year as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's also go to maybe another slide to talk about Neuwirth as well as Belmar, and speak about the fact that, I mean, these guys just got some new contracts. You look at Neuwirth. What does this deal, particularly for him, mean for Mason? Maybe we'll stick with you, Dana, because you are our Flyers anchor. What do you think this means for Mason's and his future with the Flyers going forward?
Well, it most likely means that Mason will probably not be returning. They signed Neuwirth so that he can be exposed for the draft. Say Neuwirth does get picked for the Las Vegas team, then you talk about Mason maybe coming back. But they wanted to protect Stolarz, and so it all depends. But it most likely means that Mason probably won't be back next year. But is that necessarily a bad thing? I don't personally think so, because I just think at this point, they're just not, the goalies just are not consistent, so they needed to change. So Mason probably not coming back, just depending on what happens with the draft.
All right. And Steve, we'll go to you about the Belmar. Do you think that signing him, what do you think that the plan there was for the Flyers moving forward?
Well, I think he's one of the more veterans on this Flyers team, and he's now alternative captain next to Claude Giroux. So I think the Flyers want to send a message of what the leadership is on this team and giving him that, because you know what kind of presence he is in the locker room. The team loves him and what he does underneath Claude Giroux. So I think it's just the Flyers setting up kind of that hierarchy on the team of who to look to, because the question was, well, what's going to happen with Claude Giroux? Are you stripping the C? Is it going to Wayne Simmons? But Wayne Simmons is the first one to defend Claude Giroux every single time, like he deserves to be captain. So now you have Belmar stepping in. That's just, maybe take some of the pressure off of Claude Giroux as well, as he's trying to score more than twice in 26 games, I think.
And now going to Kevin, talking about Claude Giroux, what do you make of him in terms of that captain role, in terms of the leadership? Do you think that there's a message being sent from the top down of kind of, look, there needs to be some people stepping up to kind of prove their worth on this team? I mean, consider right now where are they at? They have 65 points right now on the season. They're falling lower and lower down on the wild card standings. It's looking more unrealistic for them to make the playoffs the way they're going. So yeah, talk about a little bit about the leadership moving forward with this team.
Oh, I just think that there's no true veteran leader that's been to the playoffs that's done that. Giroux is the only player left from that team that made the Stanley Cup run for us. And I think that's the reason why he's the captain right now. There's no other player on our team that's had as good of a run into the playoffs, except for now Filippola, or whatever his name is. But there's no player that's had such a great playoff experience as Claude Giroux. So I think that he is the most qualified to be the leader for this team. But with that being said, they still need other veteran players to be brought in here. Personally, I think that Giroux is a good player. But I don't think that he's that player, that he's not a franchise player. He's not a Sidney Crosby or, as much as I hate saying that, or Ovechkin, a Stamkos, a Kane. He's not one of those type of players. He's a nice guy to have on the team that goes and complements those players. But he is not that A-list player.
Mm-hmm. Going to you, Dana. I guess moving forward now, I think we've already kind of come to the assumption now that the Flyers are not going to make the playoffs. Do you see moves in the offseason as well? Maybe even talking about the goaltending situation. What is the main thing they need to do? Is it the offense? Is it getting more defensive help? What do you think the main objective for this team is moving forward into the offseason?
Well, it's kind of hard to say, because in the beginning the problem was the defense and the goalies, and now coming towards this part of the season, it's the offense and it's the scoring. So I definitely think that the goalies were way too inconsistent to keep them as they were. Neuwirth is not the problem, but definitely not playing great. Mason probably won't be back, and Stolarz is just a little too young. So it just, you kind of just have to take it, I don't know. Hopefully this trade will help the offense, so hopefully that's not really what we have to focus on for the offseason. Hopefully just, defense is personally what I think we need to focus on. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess I'll end with you, Steve. What do you think the season looks like? I think we've already had kind of perspectives from these guys in the season. Are you also under the assumption that this team is more unrealistic to make the playoffs, even with this deal they made with the Tampa Bay Lightning, bringing in a guy like Filippola that can honestly maybe jolt them a little bit in that second line?
I'm not all out yet.
You think
there's still a chance. And you look at the game that they just won against the Avalanche. You need a game kind of like that to get your offense going. You score 4 goals, 3 of them in the first period. Steve Mason gets the shutout. We know how streaky of a team the Flyers are. And you need a good streak to end this season with under 25 games left. But the problem for the Flyers now is that they need so many teams to lose, but the good thing is they're coming up against those teams that they need to lose. So 2-point games they can get. It's not over yet.
Yeah, and let's hope that this team can maybe get a little jolt with this trade. But that's going to do it for Flyers talk. Let's get into the Philadelphia 76ers now. Same team in the Wells Fargo Center, or the Sixers like to call the Center because they have this dispute with Wells Fargo, but we don't have any sponsors. Oh, but sponsor us if you want. But going into the Sixers, unfortunately, some really bad news hearing these past couple weeks with the injuries. Ben Simmons came back, found out that he's not going to play the rest of the season. That was kind of expected, just based on the fact that it's just getting closer and closer to the end of the year. We don't really have much to play for. But it turns out that his bone is not healing as fast as they would have hoped at this point, and he just recently had a bone marrow injection into the foot to even help the healing, so that's a little scary. And then going into Joel Embiid, I think that's the other big news of late is the fact that he's out for the rest of the year. The team, Brian Colangelo, just have not been very direct to the fans until maybe these last couple of weeks with his injury. They let him play in that Rockets game. You see him dancing on the stage. Now, that's his problem at that Meek Mill concert. But look, now it looks like the meniscus tear is getting worse. He may need surgery. And these are big critical problems going forward with this team. And I guess I'll start with you, Kevin. Is it tougher now to trust the process with all these things going on?
Definitely is a little bit different now. Without Hinkie in the front office, it's no longer a trust the process. I guess I don't know what to say. Colangelo has brought in a different angle on this team, and was trying, at least I thought, to bring in some of the veterans that were going to be the leaders for this team, like he did when he brought in Henderson, Rodriguez, and even Ilyasova once the season started. But with some of the moves that he's made, I'm starting to question his role in the front office, and I don't know if I agree with what he's doing with this team. Like you were saying, he's been very lackadaisical and not really addressing the problems that the Sixers has to the media. And even when he does this, he's telling, I don't know if they're half-truths or what, but he's not. More is coming out down the line than what we really thought was going on with this team, and that's exactly what you have here with Embiid. I thought, actually, I think it was right after last week's show, there was a report that came out saying that he was going to miss another 4 games. And once that happened, I kind of started to think that he's done for the year. They're not even going to bother playing him. They got rid of Ilyasova, who he played best with, and from that right there, I thought that was going to be the end of Embiid's season. With that being said, I think that it was a good season, a good rookie campaign. But all in all, I blame this all on Colangelo. He's done a horrible job leading the franchise, and he's causing more turmoil than he is solving it.
I guess that's an interesting perspective. But considering the fact that Joel Embiid only played 31 games this season, obviously that's not Colangelo's fault. That is, they were very strict in the back-to-backs. They didn't want him to play those games.
No, I agree. I agreed with the no back-to-backs and stuff like that. But now I'm starting to question whether or not are they tanking again, because of the fact that they're selling some of the players that were playing good with the team. And before, I thought there was no shot that they were tanking again. They had a franchise player in Embiid, and you knew when healthy he was that. And we have a pretty good understanding that Ben Simmons is going to be a franchise player too. And the fact that they're holding him out, and then they say like, oh, minor setback here, a minor setback there. Now I'm starting to wonder, are they tanking again?
Yeah, all teams, and I'll go with you, Steve, kind of just talking more about these injuries and really going into the role of tanking and the role of with Sam Hinkie when he was here, and why many people still wish he was here was the reason why, although he didn't say much, you kind of knew what he was doing. Until the Okafor draft pick, it seemed like everyone was on the same page, and then when that happened, everything kind of fell apart, I felt, because as soon as he was picked, it kind of was like, oh, now we're just going to settle. And that was coming after the news that Embiid was going to be out for another season. But that kind of was the turmoil. But up to that point, he pretty much said stuff, and you kind of knew what he meant. He just didn't lie as much to the media. Now it almost seems like the Sixers are giving really bad PR things. Instead of not saying anything, they're saying stuff, and it's not true.
Was he better than Colangelo in talking to the media? Yes, but not by much. And I think that's why we're talking about this. Are we still trusting the process, and are they tanking? The Sixers organization as a whole and their PR department have just been absolute garbage for the past 5 to 6 years, and just explaining what's going on with the trade moves, with injuries. I mean, look at this week. Kevin Durant gets hurt. The following day, the Golden State Warriors tell you exactly that he is out indefinitely and we're going after another player to replace him. Yeah. That's good. We want to know that. The media wants to know that. Luckily in Philly, we have a smart fan base, so we could figure out what Sam Hinkie was doing. We figure out what Brian Colangelo is doing, kind of. But looking at the injuries, okay, all season long, Ben Simmons, when's he coming back? Maybe after the All-Star break. He's coming along fine, and then suddenly he gets a surgery to speed up the healing. Well, I thought the healing was going fine. All right, the CAT scan comes out that things aren't looking all right, but if he's still coming along naturally and not playing until next season, then why do you need to inject bone marrow in there to speed things up? And then you look at Embiid, and that's a whole nother story of, all right, he's day-to-day, he's out indefinitely, he's out for the season. Just stop lying. You just have to stop lying, talk clearly to the media, and you're going to have one less problem on your plate than figuring out when these franchise players are going to be ready to play.
Yeah, and going back to the PR thing, I remember when the trade of, was it like Michael Carter-Williams back in the day, and they had the three of the people on the graphic, I think it was like Embiid, or no, it was Nerlens Noel and Michael Carter-Williams on the same graphic, the banner, and they got traded the next day. There's no connection between organization, GM, and everything, and that's a problem. Kevin, we'll end it with you with the Sixers talk. Moving forward, what has to happen here? Do you have trust in these guys staying healthy? I think Ben Simmons is a case where, I mean, hopefully he just can finally get this thing healed. He seems like he's been working hard. He has good spirits, continuously says stuff on social media where he's going to get better. But the Embiid thing, many different injuries. So, yeah, just a quick response on that.
Yeah, I mean, like you were saying, the Simmons injury seems like it's kind of a one-time thing. As far as that goes, I'm not worried too much about his health moving forward. Embiid, it's all different injuries. So I don't think that, since it's not one reoccurring thing, and with this one being a meniscus, it's something that is just a freak incident. So I don't think that, as long as his back isn't hurt or his foot's not hurt, I don't think he's going to have injury issues down the line either.
Let's definitely hope so. I mean, all hope is that he can stay healthy because he's a great player. But that's going to do it for Sixers talk. Let's get right into Fast Five. We're starting a little earlier now. We're going to end it with Phillies talk. Let's go with you, Dana. Flyers, do they get the W? Well, we're going to ask you this again because we always ask you. Do they get the W the next game?
Yeah, and I always say yeah. Tonight, yeah. I think they do.
Why?
Because I love the Flyers.
All right,
because
all right, I'll take that. No, that's all. This is Fast Five. I just need a quick
cool.
answer. Steve, let's go to you. The Flyers trade of Strite in order to get Fipula from the Lightning. Kevin was not a big fan of it. You seemed a little more a fan of the deal. What grade would you give for the Sixers trade deadline?
I'd give it an A. You get the same amount of money for a younger player who's a veteran talent and gives them at least a better shot to make the playoffs.
All right, I like it. Kevin, Flyers, you didn't like the trade. What is something you're looking for from Hextall in the offseason? What was a move that you think needs to be made that you would be more comfortable with?
Well, I don't know. I guess kind of I want to see an offensive player brought in. I like Filipula, whatever his name is. But
I think it's Fipula or Filpula.
Filpula.
But can you say Filpula?
How about the next question just be, what's his nickname? But I think we need to bring in a younger player to complement Giroux, Voracek, Simmons. I just don't know if his contract's a little bit longer than what I like. That's basically the reason why I wasn't a fan of this trade. Yeah,
I feel that. Let's go to you, Steve. Let's ask a Sixers question. In terms of this team moving forward, Brett Brown, this guy's been with this team through this whole ordeal. Do you see him sticking around, considering just everything ups and downs? Will he just eventually just give up, or do you think if he does stay with this whole thing, he'll be the one to decide?
Personally, I hope he stays. Do I think he wants to stay? Yes, I think he wants to see this through, and all of the fans and media questioned his X's and O's to this. We know how good he is with player development and what he did for the Spurs and how he really brought along this team. And I can see him staying when this team is good because he deserves that. I think he wants to see it himself, too.
All right, and we got to quick finish this, but Dana, they have 65 points right now, the Flyers. If they did somehow make the playoffs, what do you think that the point total would have to be for them to get in the wild card?
Oh, I have no idea.
No idea? You
No
can't give me
idea there.
90?
Yeah.
I think that's a little much. I don't think they're going to get that
No, yeah.
much. But all right, we'll give that. They're going to need a lot more points.
It's just so you just don't
No.
All right.
There's
Let's end it there. I want to thank Dana Pecora and Steve Grant for coming on to talk Flyers as well as Sixers. We're going to take a quick commercial break and come back with Kevin with some Phillies talk. All right, stick around. We'll be right back.
According to statistics, 40 million adults suffer from depression or anxiety. 1 in 4 college students are affected by this as well. You never know who is going through something, so you should always be kind to one another. A little kindness can go a long way. It might even save a life.
Welcome back to Sports Talk Philadelphia. Let's get into the Phillies, actually. We haven't talked about them in a little bit. Spring training is currently going on for them. The season's pretty much right around the corner, to be honest. And I got Kevin here with me to just talk a little bit about what we've seen so far in the offseason in terms of moves the Phillies have made, some of the veterans they've brought in, a guy like Clay Buchholz to add to the rotation, which was a little bit of a shock to some, but hopefully we can see him have a bounce back here coming from the Red Sox. But let's get into a guy like Altair. We can bring that graphic up if we don't mind, and just kind of talk about what we see from him moving forward. Is this a guy that we think is going to play a role this season for this team?
Yeah, we were hopeful that he was going to play a role for the team last year. I don't think he had the early injury in the year, and then he was able to come back a little bit earlier than expected. And so far, so good. He's playing pretty well down in Clearwater. And just the other day, he hit a bases clearing triple when the bases were loaded to tie the game up, I believe. So all in all, he's playing pretty well. I think he's hitting about 400 for the team in like 10 or so at bats. So in general, yeah, he's playing pretty well. And you see there he's got the home run to add to that base clearing triple. But he's a guy that I think could make a push to earn I think right now he's definitely going to have a spot on the roster.
You think so?
Yeah, but I think he could push for a starting job. That's what they were looking for him, or from him from last year. But that was before they got the two outfield veterans like Howie Kendrick and Michael Saunders. But if one of those guys gets injured or slips up and isn't playing that well, Aaron Altair could definitely take that job from him.
Yeah, and it's not like the Phillies have taken on huge contracts where that would seem impossible to do. They don't.
Clentak's doing it very analytically.
Yeah.
That's what he was kind of brought in here to do. He's making a bunch of moves that are cap friendly and
even though there's no cap, but I know what you mean, like not spending the bank until
exactly.
Maybe this offseason, maybe this is something I think
so that they can afford to go out and get a big name player.
Yeah. And I guess going to another young guy, J.P. Crawford, who's someone we've really heard about coming up the ranks. Undoubtedly, probably at this point, the most hyped Phillies prospect, even around the MLB. People think he's one of the best shortstop prospects around. And do you think we'll see him this season, just because of the fact that, I mean, you have some veterans now in that role, a guy like Freddie Galvis, who's kind of played the shortstop for some time now, and played well last season, was able to put double-digit home runs, which was kind of shocking. What do you see his role moving forward in these next couple seasons?
He's definitely the guy that the Phillies have pinned as the shortstop of the future. Yeah. The thing is, he's been struggling a little bit down in Double-A, and I think he just got his footing down there. And if he adds on to that this year, he could find his way into the major league team. With that being said, you
mean
brought
Triple-A?
up
Was it
yeah,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. He could find his way into the major league team. You brought up Freddie Galvis, and the other middle infielder is Cesar Hernandez.
He played well as well.
Yeah, and if one of those two players could be moved at the deadline to bring in another young player, that very well could be the opening Crawford needs to get onto the team and have a starting job. Other than that, it's going to take a lot for him to make the team this year. He's just going to have to rake basically all spring training to make the team out of jump. I don't think he's going to do that. The other only possibility is if an injury happens in the outfield and maybe a guy like Altair or somebody else who we have out there isn't playing that well, and you might see them start playing around. Cesar Hernandez did play a little bit of outfield. Crawford has played a little bit of outfield, and I believe Galvis has even messed around in the outfield for the Phillies here and there. So you could see them try to move one of those out just to get another bat into the lineup at the shortstop position.
Yeah, Galvis is the type of guy that probably could play pretty much any infield position.
All three of them are quick enough to play the middle infield and the outfield, and their gloves are all good. The only question is
the bat. That's pretty much how it is.
For the three of them, really.
And they're definitely looking for hitters like an Odubel Herrera that can really take the count, really be a better hitter than we've seen in the past, guys that are just swinging low average type of guys. I think, what do you see this team this season? I think just a quick kind of response of what the outlook is. Are we a 500 team?
Yes. Actually, no. I don't know if we're going to be 500. I think we're going to be right around there. I do think we're going to be an improvement from last year, though.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for Sports Talk Philadelphia. I want to thank Kevin Cook for sticking on for the whole show to talk Phillies, Flyers, and Sixers, as well as Dana Pecora and Steve Graham. I am Tommy McIntyre Jr., your host. You can catch this show Thursday nights at 10:30. And, yeah, check us out on Facebook and Twitter. Peace and love.